Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're coming to you from AI-deas under the Good Business podcast. We're hosted by the PHINMA-DLSU Center for Business and Society, and our focus is always on this one powerful idea, that business can be a force for good. Today we're diving deep into just one source. It's a really compelling article from the Good Business column for Rappler, and it's titled Business Education as a Global Force for Good. And just for full transparency, this entire deep dive was actually generated with some help from AI, specifically using Notebook LM to pull out the key insights from that one article. So our mission today is to unpack how a regional leader, how a school can really become a global ethical force. Okay, so let's set the stage. There's this piece of news that really kicks the whole thing off. On November 11, 2025, the DLSU Ramon V Rosario College of Business, RVRCOB for short, got this huge international award.
Huge is right. The 4 Palms of Excellence at the Eduniversal World Convention.
And what does that mean exactly? The 4 palms.
I mean, that puts them in the top echelon. We're talking the top 20% of 1,000 ranked business schools around the world. It's a massive nod to their academics, their leadership in the region, and this is key, their commitment to sustainability and ethics.
Okay, so recognition is fantastic, obviously, but this is where the real challenge starts, right?
Exactly.
An award says, hey, you're excellent. But the mission of the center, our mission, is to apply that excellence for good.
So it begs the question.
Yeah, it really does. How does a school with that kind of international influence actually translate it? How do you become a global force for good? How do you move past the trophy on the shelf and really start to change things?
Well, that's it. It forces you to look outside to find other institutions that have already figured out that integration, where the local culture isn't just, a flavor added to the curriculum.
It is the curriculum.
This is the curriculum, precisely.
And that brings us pretty perfectly to the host of that very convention, the Indian Institute of Management, or Indore.
Right. And their convention theme was spot on for this conversation. Bridging purpose and performance, business education as a force for good.
Indore is a fascinating case study here. They're a powerhouse.
Oh, absolutely. They hold the Triple Crown accreditation, which puts them in the top 1% of business schools globally, and they do this while being deeply, deeply committed to their local context.
And that commitment isn't just talk, is it? It's tangible.
It is. Their director, Professor Himanshu Rai, he talked about their role in nation building, specifically in their own city. They were a huge part of Indore being named India's cleanest city for 7 years straight.
7 years. That's not a fluke.
Yeah.
That's immediate, measurable impact. That's business principles driving real civic good.
And what's really fascinating here is how they pull this off. This is the pivot point. Rai calls their approach ancient yet agile.
Ancient yet agile. I like that.
He grounds their ethical leadership training not just in, modern case studies or whatever, but in Vedic wisdom, in ancient Sanskrit texts.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. A top-tier Triple Crown MBA program is teaching ancient philosophy next to what? Quantitative analysis.
I know. It sounds...
Doesn't that risk being seen as, a bit esoteric, maybe not relevant for a fast-paced, skills-focused corporate world?
That's the natural reaction, but it totally misses the point they're making.
Mm-hmm.
They argue that the biggest leadership failures we see today, they all come from these timeless human flaws. Things like ego, fear, short-sightedness. So Ray connects these modern failures, leaders obsessed only with metrics, leaders who can't take accountability, leaders who underperform because they're afraid to fail. He connects them directly back to lessons that were written down thousands of years ago.
So the ancient wisdom isn't a history lesson. It's a diagnostic tool for today's problems.
It's a living management tool. And the key insight, the thing we really need to grab onto, is that Indore doesn't treat this heritage like decoration. It's not an elective class you can take. Vedic wisdom is taught as business education. It fundamentally shapes how they approach leadership and learning. By honoring their tradition, they actually become this top school of tomorrow.
This feels like it could be a blueprint for the Philippines. I mean, the source points out all the parallels between India and Philippines, right?
So many. Large populations, fast-growing economies, collectivist cultures.
Dominance of family businesses, and that tension from a colonial history where you're always balancing indigenous ideas with imported ones.
We have that shared context, so the question becomes, if Indore uses the Vedas, what is our equivalent? What is the powerful, deeply Filipino wisdom that can be the foundation for global business leadership?
And that leads us to this beautiful set of Filipino cultural concepts. The source groups them under this label, DKL, which Not by accident sounds like tequila.
Noble or great, yeah. And this is where we really need to slow down a bit because these ideas are so different from the individualist frameworks that you see in most Western business schools.
This is a different kind of capitalism.
An entirely different ethical grounding for it, yes.
So let's start with the first one, lube.
Lube, right. It's often translated as the inner self, but it's more than that. It's the seat of your volition, your authentic conviction.
Okay, so when we talk about lube in a business context, it's not just about, say, having morals.
No, it's deeper. Lube is about the integrity of your actions. Think about a manager. Someone operating with lube isn't just hitting their performance metrics. They're acting from a place of real conviction. They own their decisions, even the hard ones.
So it's about internal alignment driving external action, authenticity.
Exactly. That's real leadership, not just ticking boxes.
Okay. So next up, and this one is probably more familiar to people, is kapwa.
Right. We hear it translated as fellow human, but it's a bit simplistic.
It's richer than that.
Much richer. It's about the relational nature of being human, the idea that myself and yourself are fundamentally connected, that my well-being is tied to yours.
So how would that play out in, say, an HR department? How would a kapwa-driven HR policy look different?
Well, in a traditional model, an employee is a human resource, a unit to be optimized for efficiency.
Right.
In a Kapwa model, a leader builds an organization where people matter as people. You have a holistic consideration for their dignity, their context. A performance review isn't just about output, it's about nurturing the relationships so that person can thrive. Because you know their thriving is essential for the whole organization's health.
It completely reframes the employer-employee relationship.
It redefines the contract, yeah.
Okay, and the last one, diwa. So we've gone from the individual lube to the relational kapwa. This one feels bigger.
It is. Diwa is the collective consciousness. It's the spirit that animates a whole group or an organization. It ensures that the institution serves a purpose beyond its own narrow interests.
Beyond just profit margins or rankings.
Exactly. An institution with Diwa understands it has a responsibility to society. It asks, what collective purpose are we serving? And that's how business education becomes a force for good. The whole exists to uplift the whole.
So we have the wisdom DKL. But wisdom is just theory without a way to deliver it. And the really interesting thing is that DLSU already has a system for this, right? The Lasallian reflection framework.
That's right. It's the engine that can translate these big ideas into actual practice. It moves students through 3 stages, and it starts with masiddanas.
See experience. Sounds straightforward.
It sounds like it, but the key word is mapagpansin. It means being genuinely attentive.
So it's not just looking at data.
No. It's being mindful of what's actually happening on the ground in people's lives, not just what your economic models predict should be happening. It's about setting aside your assumptions and truly seeing the reality of the situation.
Okay, after seeing, you move to Surinale. Analysis and reflection. This is being malamam.
Being deep. This is where intellect and intuition come together. Standard business analysis often keeps those separate. Surinale says you have to use both to get a holistic understanding. You look for patterns, not just data points.
You ask, what does my gut tell me about this data?
Exactly. Why are people acting in a way the theory doesn't predict? That's where the real insights come from.
And then the final, crucial step, tekilos, commitment to action.
This is accountability. The action you take has to be it has to be completely responsible, and it flows directly from the deep understanding you gain in the first 2 stages.
So if you've truly seen the reality and you've deeply reflected on it, your action has to be responsible. It's a closed loop.
A continuous loop. And that entire framework is so much more powerful than just adding an ethics class to the schedule. It's a whole cycle for creating responsible leaders.
Okay, so we have the wisdom with DKL, and we have the structure with the Lasallian framework. The path forward seems to require 3 big shifts for business schools here.
And the first one is foundational. It's about elevating our own wisdom.
Right. We have to stop treating these Filipino values like an interesting side dish.
Exactly. They can't just be supplementary. They have to be the foundation, the very basis for how we teach management, leadership, everything. Until DKL is at the core of organizational design, it's just on the periphery.
Okay, shift 1 is foundational. Shift 2 is about integration. We have to do more than just mention these values.
This is where we look back to Indore. They don't just talk about it. They have a mandatory rural engagement program, a Himalayan outbound program. They force students to apply these ethical frameworks in the real world.
We need our own versions of that, deep, comprehensive experiences.
Yes. That moves theory into lived social reality.
Which leads perfectly into the third shift. Business schools have to be more deeply rooted in Philippine social realities.
Right. A school becomes a force for good when it actually helps solve the specific urgent problems facing its own society, not just optimizing global supply chains.
It seems so clear. The 4 Poems Award shows the global potential is there.
And the Indore example shows how you can meet those global standards without losing who you are. The opportunity isn't to copy what everyone else is doing.
It's to define a new kind of global excellence, one that's built on our own unique wisdom.
The global picture needs the colors that only we Filipinos can add.
So what does this all boil down to for you listening to this? I think the core mission, becoming a global force for good, it's not achieved by imitation. It's achieved by this radical, deep integration of our own wisdom into the very core of how we teach. We're talking about building leaders who are truly makagpansin, truly malalam, and who act with pananagutan. Now, here's a final thought for you to chew on. We talked about kapwa, that idea that self and other are interconnected. If you really took that to heart, what one aspect of kapwa could totally redefine the standard human resources department in a big multinational company? Maybe think about conflict resolution, or even how they decide on compensation, and what surprising competitive advantages could that give them on a global stage. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into business education and cultural wisdom. This was brought to you by the PHINMA-DLSU Center for Business and Society, and we really hope it gave you something to think about.
Knowledge is most valuable when understood and applied.